Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And today I have an amazing young lady on by the name of Delilah. Delilah is an actress, she's a producer, she's a lot of amazing things. You guys will not believe this lady. She's amazing. So make sure you, number one, share this out. Please share this out. And number two, stay with us. We will be right back. And we are back. Let me bring Delilah on. Delilah, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Ken. You're so amazing. I just want to
Oh,
say how grateful I am to be here today. And I think you're doing such a wonderful thing to create an inspirational show. I am so into motivation and inspirational material. And when I met you at Craig's Rockstar event, wow, it was just, I was blown away by how much knowledge and experience and how many things you've yourself have broken through. So,
well, thank you, Delilah. That's so nice. Yeah, we met at Craig Duswalt's event, and that was fun. That was an amazing time. And I remember when I met you and we talked about, and we'll talk more about this in the show later, but you've produced a movie, you're doing all kinds of just amazing things, and I was like, okay, she needs to be on my show. So let's start with you talking about where you were born and raised.
okay, yeah, absolutely. So I have an interesting story actually because I was born in Northern California. I actually lived in a really tiny town near Modesto called Atwater. This is between the ages of 0 and 3. I
Yeah.
mean, it was so rural. My mom was like a traveling salesperson, and my dad at the time too, my father, birth father, was also into sales, and they had like a vacuum and sewing machine store and little carpet
Oh,
business. And um and so around the time I was 3, my parents were uh not doing so well together. I guess they were separating, getting divorced. And so my mom thought it would be a great idea to send me to Iran because my mom is actually from Iran.
okay.
My birth side, my birth father is a mix of European and Native American,
Yeah.
Lakota.
Yeah.
And my mother is from Iran originally. She immigrated from there and got into sales in the United States. So she sent me off. And just to preface this, so too, because I always want to say that, parents do the best they possibly can with raising children. And sometimes, little mistakes are made and it sounds like a good idea at the time, and maybe it's not. But
Right.
it was, for me personally, honestly, a little bit jarring, a little traumatic to be separated. I'm only 3 years
Yeah.
old, and I actually have a lot of memories between those
Wow.
ages. But anyway, so between the ages of 3 and 6, I was actually in Iran. And
Wow.
there were many beautiful things. Like when I first got there, it was a little bit shocking. But then once I was there, I got to meet my extended family on my mom's side. Got to meet my grandfather, uh, who actually apparently he comes from a lineage of doctors to the king for 400 years.
Oh my
The
goodness.
first one that was not the doctor to the king. He broke that line of doctors.
Wow.
So I thought that was kind of interesting about him. And
Wow.
while I was there, I learned the language. I spoke with my grandmother, who only spoke she only spoke Farsi. And when I would speak with her, I'd want my blankie in English, and she'd be like,
Yeah.
"Ice cream," and I'd be like, "I want my blankie."
You want
And
ice
then she would take
cream?
me down. So she'd walk me down to like the Persian ice cream store,
Oh my
and she'd get me ice cream. And boy, I was like, I'm liking this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, Persian ice cream is really tasty. If you never tried it, it's usually with like rose water, and it's really nice. But
Mm.
anyway, so then towards the end of the stay there, there was some turbulence going on. It was wartime, and uh, the end of the trip wasn't so fun. We were, sleeping on the ground to avoid getting shot at, and there's explosions outside, and it's very
Gee.
very challenging, as a child. But I do remember that my uncle, he's such an amazing, he actually was my dad for the time being, and
Yeah.
he really was a great, he really is a great dad, because he really protected us, and he made us feel safe. And he said, we didn't have a lot of things to fight in case in case the soldiers came. So he
Mm.
had this big metal bat behind the door, and he's like, if the soldiers come, we're gonna hit them with the bat, and then we're gonna run upstairs to the balcony, and we have these plants we're gonna throw on them. And then I don't know really what was going on, to be honest, but I was like, okay. And we were very fortunate. We got out just barely alive, uh, and um, and it was really quite the experience, because I remember I had a next door neighbor, and we used to swap toys. And I was saying goodbye to him on my last day. It was like early morning. We were leaving for the airport to come back to the United States, and I was, just saying goodbye to him and all that. He was like my BFF.
Yeah.
He had a tricycle. I had this like car thing. We'd like swap all the time. And, and all of a sudden I come out, and the two cars are leaving without me. And I'm like waving them down. And I think they were in such a hurry. Each car thought I was in the other car.
At
So
6 years old, and you're 6.
yeah.
Oh my
I mean, it was like
lord.
an emergency situation. We're trying to get to the airport before the red alert or whatever that we're going to the United States. And
Wow.
so then one of the cars stops, and they come back and they get me. And they're like, "Oh my God, we thought you were in the other car."
Oh my
And
gosh.
so, fortunately, I made it back. Now, I had this little baby chick. We couldn't take her with me. I think we gave her to my neighbor, but I was so bummed, because I thought, oh, I want my little baby chick to come with me. And so I'm asking my aunt on the airplane if my little baby chick is okay. And she's like, oh, I'm sure she's flying with us right now,
Oh my gosh.
which
Did
is
you
actually
know
very comforting, to be honest.
did you learn how to speak Farsi when you were there?
Yeah, I did.
Did you really?
I
Wow.
did. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So that had to I mean, it's traumatic enough that you leave your mother and you go to Iran, and then in the midst of all that, you're ducking and dodging bullets and soldiers, and that sounds absolutely insane for any age, let alone 3, 4, 5 years old.
Yeah, it definitely was. And I think it really, they were trying times, but I think it actually helped me in some ways. There is a silver lining, because I think I became a lot more vigilant. I was really inspired to start martial arts. Uh,
Mm,
I had my youngest uncle. He was like my mom's teenage brother, and he was like totally into Bruce Lee, and he'd watch all these Bruce Lee films. He'd wear his karate gi while he's watching. He was like all into it.
yeah.
I remember seeing the scene. I think it was Enter the Dragon, and Bruce Lee was like this little guy, and he was like fighting these big people, and like, he was totally defending himself. And I was like, wow, I want to do what this guy's doing, you
Yeah,
know? And
right.
so it like inspired me. I got really into like superheroes. Actually, I was into comics and superheroes even before then. Like, I
Wow.
used to have like Superman shoes when I was 2, and like couldn't decide between Spider-Man and Superman. So I was like all into the comics.
Wow.
Um, and then it just got me like way more down that line. And
Wow.
so I think in a lot of the inspiration behind the film White Dove that I made, comes some of the characters' childhood sort of is a reflection of, or parallel to, what I experienced as a child. So I have a tendency to put a lot of nuances of my personal experiences into my work. So it's been, helps my work
Wow.
become a little bit more rich and creative in many ways.
That's amazing. So, and we're going to show, with your permission here in a little bit, we'll show the trailer to your movie, which is I can't wait to see it. But anyway, and I can't get you to send me the file. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh,
So I'm kidding. So you ended up at 6 years old back in the United States. Now, did you go back to California?
okay, so you're thinking I'm out of the woods. I get back to I do. I come back to California, and so it's interesting because more craziness happened. So my aunt and uncle taking me to my mom's house, the new house, because now I didn't realize she was actually remarried. And so during the time I
Wow.
was gone, she got divorced and remarried. So I'm thinking I'm going to see my mom and my birth father, right? And so she introduces me to my stepdad, but she introduces him as if he's my father before I left.
Mm,
And I recognized right away that he wasn't. And she's like, "Oh, here's your daddy." And I was like, he's not my father, or he's not my daddy. I was like, and she's like, "Oh yeah, no, this is your daddy." And I was like, no, he's not. What's
oh
going
my
on?
gosh.
Here's my, used to call my actual birth father Papa. So I was like, "Where's my Papa?" And so that was a little bit confusing. And
Wow.
and then I didn't I don't know exactly why, but at the time I think my mom thought it was a good idea. Uh like I said, nobody's perfect. People make mistakes in their lives. And since then, I've absolutely forgiven my mom, and we have such a beautiful relationship. She's a kind, caring woman. But, she was going through a really hard time too.
Sure.
And so I ended up for a long time living with my aunt and uncle. And she started a new family on her own. And so I remember I had a bit of PTSD. So I was like a daydreamer in
Yeah.
class, like just to kind of escape. And so I was always daydreaming about being a superhero and saving people from all these things. And I saw Spider-Man. I was watching the Spider-Man cartoons, so I pretend I was Spider-Man, and I was climbing up walls. So while I was doing all this stuff, my teacher was really disappointed because I wasn't paying attention, and would continuously call my parents and said I wasn't focused and I wasn't doing this, that, and the other.
Wow.
And eventually, I really wanted to do well in school. I was very naturally gifted at math and science.
Mm,
But generally, I was falling behind in my English classes, writing, and all that because I didn't get to go to like preschool or kindergarten or any of that stuff. And so I had a lot of catching up to do. And
yeah.
eventually I started later on in school asking my stepfather for help because I thought, what can I do to, get better? And I'm really glad I did. I think it was around the time I was like 11 or 12. And I was like, you know what? I need help. I started asking him, and he was a biology teacher, a really good teacher. And we became really close over time. And he was a phenomenal writer too, and he would review my essays and make little corrections here and there. And eventually I became a really good writer myself, and I was always writing these creative stories and things. So I learned a lot from him, and eventually I moved back into my mom and my stepdad's, or not back in, but I moved in with them when I was 15. So you're asking me where this is all relevant, because you're asking me
Yeah.
where I grew up. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like in Northern California, in a little tiny rural town. Then I'm in Iran. Now I'm back in, the Bay Area.
Wow.
And now I'm back into my mom and my stepdad's house because my aunt and uncle were like super strict. They were like, "You're not allowed to date until you're 21, and you have to be supervised." That's how strict they were.
Su- Supervised on a date
Yes.
at
And
21.
yes. And
Wow.
they said when you're 21. And when I was in high school, and the homecoming dance happened, I had a date, but they wouldn't let me go. And the poor guy ended up leaving a corsage behind my mom and stepdad's house because that's where he thought I lived. And his parents told him that I went with someone else. And
Oh
he was
no.
devastated because I met him at the allergy clinic. I used to get allergy shots.
Yeah.
And we both had
Wow.
allergies, and we're like, let's go to homecoming together. We're about the
Oh
same
my
age.
gosh.
He went to a different high school, and all that. So I always felt bad about that because I thought, this poor guy, he was like so traumatized,
Oh my
because
gosh.
he thought that because his parents convinced him that I'd gone with someone else. But I told him I cleared it up at the allergy clinic, so no worries there, you guys.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, so you were, I mean, you were raised in a very, very strict environment.
Yes, very strict
A-
environment for
And
sure.
and I know that you got into the martial arts. At what age did you start getting into, and what form of martial arts again?
I started out with Kenpo Karate,
Okay.
and I got into it when I was about 11, and
Wow.
it was one of the best things I did because when I was a kid, I was really sick a lot. I was always getting like when I say sick, I mean I was getting sick a lot. Like I had a lot of allergies, but I also between the ages of 6 and 8, um I had pneumonia about 12 times. So I
Oh
missed a lot
my
of school
god.
too. That was another reason I was falling behind in school. Uh,
Wow.
but then it seemed like around the time I was 8, thanks to my mom, she was so smart. She put me in swimming. So I started swimming classes, and it really strengthened my lungs. And so I no longer suffered. Well, there were a couple of reasons why I didn't get pneumonia anymore, but I'll tell you the second reason in a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, one of the main big reasons I think has to do with the lungs getting stronger. But I still had asthma at the time. I also got rid of asthma too. That's another story. But I had asthma too.
Wow.
And so I was just very sick all the time. So basically, by the time I did swimming, and then after a few years of swimming, I got into Kenpo Karate.
Yeah.
It was really a blessing because I just became such a healthy child after that. And it's not fun, like missing school and then not being able to be with your friends and not knowing like who's talked behind your back while you've been gone. You know how that is. It's a little,
Yeah.
it's always like the little peer pressure thing.
I have 2 teenage daughters. Yes,
So
very,
you get it,
very
yeah,
aware. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got a lot stronger. Thank goodness. Uh, I had the when I say getting rid of the as or not the asthma, but the pneumonia, I had a spiritual encounter, and that encounter seemed to make me better. Like it like healed me somehow from getting pneumonia anymore.
What do you mean by this? Talk to me about
Okay,
this.
so my aunt, so my aunt and uncle were very strict, but my uncle was a really light. He is. I mean, today he still is a very lighthearted guy. He'd work really long hours. He went through this. He went through hell with that whole war situation, keeping us safe, all this stuff. And so now he was like a professor back in Iran, but when he came to America, his degrees didn't count anymore. So he had to work at a gas station, but he was always so chipper. No matter what job he did, he was just always so delighted.
Yeah.
And he had a great sense of humor. He still does. And so, but my aunt, I think was still suffering from PTSD from the war.
Yeah.
And so her nervous system was really affected. So she would like yell and she'd say things that she probably didn't really mean. And, I'm a child and she's like in her early 20s and she doesn't really, know about raising a child that now she has because she thought my mom was going to take me and then now she has me. So I'm prefacing this because she said something to me that was like really shocking, but it led to this spiritual encounter. So that's what I'm
Okay.
prefacing this
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
So she said in Farsi, so it doesn't translate exact in English, but you kind of can tell it's not really a nice thing to say to a child.
Yeah.
But she said, and we weren't, at least I wasn't brought up religious at all. And I'd never heard I'd never heard the name Jesus or had ever heard of any religion except my grandmother was Muslim. So I'd heard of Muhammad.
Mhm.
She mentioned in passing, she was praying all the time. So obviously I'm like, who's she praying to? And God and all this stuff.
Right, right.
But I didn't really know anything about religion. And my aunt would say, I wish you're such a, like, if I didn't eat my food because I was kind of fickle, she's like, I wish God would come strike you down with the venom of a snake. That's like the translation. I don't know.
That's not very kind.
No, it's not very kind at all. And of course, she's, like I said, she was under a lot of pressure and PTSD and all
But
that.
I understand, but still.
It's still messed up, right?
Yeah,
So
that's not
she's a
cool.
sweet lady today. She would never do that now. Like
Wow.
seriously. But yeah, she said that to me and I was so mortified because first of all, I didn't know who or what God is, right? And then I'm
Right.
thinking striking me down means killing me, but I'm thinking I think I know what death is, but I know it's bad. And
Yeah.
I'm like 8 years old, and so I went into my room, and I was just so sad, and I was sad that I was with my parents, and my aunt is yelling and all this stuff. And I was looking out the window, and I said, "I don't even know who you are, God." I said, "Well, show your face to me. Like, who are you or what are you?" Because I asked my aunt, but she couldn't really explain it to me. So
Wow.
I'm just like looking out the window, and I'm just like looking, but I don't see God or what God is supposed to look like.
Right.
Then I had the most incredible dream. I used to have very vivid dreams back then. I still do, but like it was like a lucid dream that I had that night. And in fact, I wrote it down right before I wrote White Dove. I was also writing a supernatural thriller. So I actually wrote my dream in the intro of the supernatural thriller that I'm also going to make at
Wow.
some point. But basically, I was on a dock where boats are. And as a kid, I don't even know if I'd ever seen that. Maybe I'd seen it in a cartoon. I don't know. But anyway, it was like all like a docking station for boats, but there were no boats and no people. And it was like brown wood, and the sky was like this beautiful, like yellow orange, just gorgeous. Like I can't even explain how beautiful the sky was. It was just this yellow, golden orange. And but I'm by myself on this dock, and I'm just kind of looking around, and then there's water, the ocean, and I look down at the ocean and the water and the waves, and then I noticed the water. I know this is weird, but this is exactly what the dream was.
And how old were you?
8 years old,
Okay.
and the water was actually made of blood. Because as it's splashing around, I start to notice that it's blood, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So it's kind of like a scary. It seems like a scary dream at first,
Yeah.
and in the distance, I see a boat like with two figures on it, and they're standing, and it's slowly coming towards me. And I'm just like looking around, going like, "Where is everybody? I'm by myself, feeling alone as I did as a child." And as the boat approaches, there's two men in these like robes. They look like ancient robes, and they had like beards and the strange thing to me as a kid too was that they had blood on their faces too. I didn't understand why there was so much blood. Um, I hadn't seen all that as a
Wow.
kid, all that blood. So it was
Wow.
really weird to me. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, are they hurt? Are they okay? Like it was kind of like weird to me. And the man that was closest to the ledge of the boat, he looked at me and he was so kind. He had the kindest eyes I'd ever seen. And he reached out his hand and he said, oh no, before he reached out his hand, he said, "I am Jesus." And like I said, I had not heard the name before. So it was really weird. I was like, "Who's Jesus?" He said, "I'm
Wow.
Jesus." And then he said, "This is my brother, Mohammed." And I thought, "Oh, I've heard of Mohammed. My grandmother has talked about him, whatever." And then Jesus like brought his hand out to me and he said, "Come with me." And I remember thinking, these are like strangers, not supposed to talk to strangers.
Yeah, right.
So I kind of look behind me to see if there's any parental figure, and there's like nobody. I'm like totally alone, completely deserted.
Hold it. You want me to get in a boat with two strange men that I've never heard of and in a sea of blood. Okay.
And
Sounds sounds like a good day to me.
it sounds like
Gee,
a good day to me. Exactly.
my gosh.
And
What
I'm just,
the heck? At 8 years old, that's insane.
yeah, it was so insane. And I look behind me and
Wow.
I'm like, there's no one here. And I look back at him and I just looked at his eyes and he just seemed so trustworthy, like this kindness and this full of love and light. There was something like exuding from him. So I just said, okay, I thought I'm just going to take a leap of faith, basically. Like I didn't think to myself leap of faith, but I'm like, I'm just going to take my chances. So so he took my hand, I got into the boat, and now I'm sitting in this boat and I'm just kind of like, and honestly, it was awkward. Like I was like having this awkward moment because everyone was quiet. And then I thought, man, do they know they have blood on them? Don't say anything. This is weird. Like I
Do
probably
they
shouldn't
know?
say anything about that, because I was extra careful as a kid. My aunt was I had to walk on eggshells with her. So now I'm thinking I got to do that with these guys because, there's something weird going on with the blood thing, and I don't know, the water is blood, and what's going on here. So anyway, we're like going down this area, like, and all of a sudden there's like this tunnel. It's a really interesting tunnel. And we start to go into the tunnel, and all of us, and I'm like, I kind of braced myself for like, I'm not sure what's about to happen.
Like,
It's
is
gonna
this
be
like a
dark.
roller coaster ride?
Yeah, because it was gonna be dark, like,
Oh,
as soon as we enter the tunnel, because everything's bright, and now it's gonna go into, like, this dark tunnel, and I braced myself, like, "Is everything gonna be okay?" And so I was kinda like, like this, like we're going through the tunnel, and then we got through the tunnel to the other side, and like, it was only a flash for a moment before I woke up, but it was like light, like different than the light before. It was like illuminated golden white, like, I don't know, like just amazing light.
mm.
And so basically the interesting thing is, as an adult now looking back, I'm thinking maybe it was going through the darkness to the other side of the tunnel into the light. That's what it seemed like it was, because that's what the dream was. But anyway, I woke up. That dream always stayed with me. I always wondered what it was. I never really fully understood it, but all I know is I felt a transformation in my life when that happened. I stopped getting sick and pneumonia. I started getting like a lot healthier, and I started doing better in school too. Like my concentration started getting better. Um, I was getting really good at sports, so everyone was picking me for their team. Because
Wow.
let me tell you, as a kid, you feel, I was really feeling like a loner, and I
Yeah.
wanted so bad for acceptance. So now people are picking me for their dodgeball team, and I was like really good. And I'm like the fastest runner, and I'm like doing kickball and all these like different tetherball and all these different games, and I'm feeling good. And so, yeah, it was incredible. And I'll tell you, I really had a transformation, but I never, believe it or not, I never got into religion after that until later in my life, like until after my stepdad passed away.
Wow.
Um, and in late 2012 is when I had my second encounter with Jesus. But this time I was awake when it happened. Um, and that's another story. But anyway, yeah, I had a huge transformation as a kid when all that went down. It was great.
At 8 years old. And wow, 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 wow. Like, people live an entire life and don't have one encounter with Jesus, and now you're talking about having two. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So you, at 8 years old, things started going better for you as a child. Um,
Yes.
and you, this whole time you're in Northern California?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
San Francisco
Yeah,
area-ish?
just south of San Francisco. I was in the Los Altos, Palo Alto area, where
Okay,
near where Stanford is and
okay,
Google and all that.
okay. So talk about the your teenage years and how that all went for you. Because I think I find it, I find it curious. I think that things that happen in our childhood, I believe, have a tendency of pushing us in the direction of what we become as an adult, right?
Yes, yes. My teenage years were actually great, believe it or not. Um, I did come close to getting myself into a lot of trouble, but fortunately I stayed out of trouble. But I was like, I was sometimes hanging out with crowds that weren't the best for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of found myself as a teenager. I remember, um when I was preteen, leading up to becoming a teenager, I was really shy, and I was kind of scared to like talk to people. And one day, this is what I mean by how my life kind of changed, because I seemed to have more connection with God, even though I didn't realize my connection was with higher power.
Yeah.
I just, um, I just didn't understand it. It was like these intuitive things would come to me really quick.
Yeah.
And I had a desire one day. I said, I want to have lots of friends and I want to be popular. And I thought, what do kids do to do that? And I want to be able to talk to people. I just wanted to have like a meaningful conversation, but I didn't know what to say or how to say it. So one day I thought, I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to say hi to one person a day. This is in eighth grade. This is right before I went into high school.
Wow.
And so I'd be walking down the hall and I'd say, hi, John, or hi, Mary. I was like, just
Yeah.
whoever. And they'd say hi back. Um, and they'd smile and I'd say, oh, wow, that was a good thing. Like, it was
Yeah.
actually good that I said hi.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, I'm going to upgrade to like a phrase a day. I'm going to start saying, so then I was like, and so I watched this. I had this a Korean girlfriend, Jean, who's really outgoing, and she was such a social butterfly. And I was like, how does she talk to people? So one day we were in class, and I noticed she was talking to this girl about shoelaces, and they had these characters on their shoelaces, and like we're just talking back and forth. And I thought, wow, I would never have thought about talking about shoelaces, because my brain thought differently. I was thinking on a more complex kind of deeper sort of level, like existence level kind of. I don't know why my brain thought that way, but it did. And then I was like, small talk. So I started learning that that's how you talk to people. You got to start with small talk. So
Wow.
one day I'm walking into health class. I remember the first person I talked to. Her name was Vivian. She had these really cool shades on her desk. And I saw her shades and I said, oh my gosh, those are really cool shades. I'm thinking this. I'm like, duh, you're supposed to say that out loud to her. Don't just think it inside.
Wow.
So I'm like, hey, Vivian, cool shades. That was my first phrase.
Yeah.
Hey, Vivian, cool shades. Anyway, she looked up and she was like really happy. And she had this like big smile on her face. And she was like so excited that I had actually complimented her on her shades.
Wow.
So Alexa, stop. Alexa's talking to me.
You're
Um,
making mine react to that too.
I have to get her to stop. Like, I forgot she was on. So yeah, and then after that, I watched like a group of kids outside of French class, and they were just like, talking. And this one guy comes up. He's like this big popular guy, and he's like starts a conversation, and everyone laughs. And I'm like, oh, that's how you got to do it. You got to walk up confident. So my chest is out. I walk up confidently to the same group, and then
Yeah.
I say something, and then I don't know, they laugh, and then we start talking. I was like, oh, this is how you talk to people. So that's kind of how it all started, my social activity.
But
And
you're what, 13, 14 at the time.
13, I was
And
13.
and you're having the insight, I don't know, the of like you're really thinking through this. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to be popular, so I had to figure it out on my
That's
own.
but that, I know, but it's still amazing that you had the thought of this is I mean, you really thought through each and every step, and that's impressive. Very impressive.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
cool shades, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I'm not wearing them today, but
No, I do like the flowers though sitting behind you. Those are pretty.
oh, thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, I love flowers. I always try to have a room full of flowers when I can. Mhm.
Yeah. So you started becoming popular in school, so where did things go from there? You get into high school.
Yeah, I got into high school. I became a skateboarder first. Went through my little rebellious phase.
Yeah.
Um, Went to like all these punk shows without my family knowing, because they were so strict. So I was doing like the opposite. I can't get into trouble anymore, so I can tell you all about it. No,
Yeah.
like,
Right.
I just became like a rebellious teenager and all that. The interesting thing is, I did stay away from drugs. I was surrounded by lots and lots and lots of drugs. And people were always asking me if I wanted to do this or do that. And, you know, I had this feeling, this intuitive feeling that I shouldn't do it. I wasn't sure. It wasn't because I was told not to, because that conversation never even came up.
Right.
But I was also really focused on martial arts and being an athlete. I was also part of the track and field team. And I just wanted to always improve my athletic performance. And I didn't want to do anything that could go against it.
Yeah.
And so I think that it was really healthy to be in sports,
Yeah.
really helped a lot.
And how old were you when you got into Kenpo? Is it Ken or
I was
KEM?
still I was still in grade school. I think it was 11. Yeah, 11 when I got in. Mhm.
And how is it KEN or M?
Yeah, it's Kenpo.
Oh,
And
so
Kenpo's
like my name, Kenpo.
yeah, Kenpo. And
Okay.
Kenpo is really cool. It's basically a combination of Chinese martial arts, Japanese with a Hawaiian influence. And
Wow.
it's a wonderful martial art because it was excellent for self-defense
Yeah.
and really great for confidence. And we were learning, it was just fun. It got me out of my shell, and I made a lot of
Wow.
friends, and I learned a lot from people there too. And I eventually became an instructor as well when I was 15.
Wow. That's pretty incredible. When did you get your black belt?
I got my black belt when I was 18. And
Wow.
yeah,
That's unbelievable. Do you compete or have you competed?
yes, I competed internationally and nationally. I my mom still has two sheds full of all my trophies. Yeah, I
Wow.
competed on both national and international level.
That's
I actually,
incredible.
yeah, it was really really good for me too, because it was boosted my confidence of something, a goal that I was working towards. And I really enjoyed the process, working
Ha
up to it.
have you ever had to use it in real life?
It has come in so handy, you have no idea.
Really?
Yeah, um, very handy. It actually sharpened my instincts tremendously. Um,
Wow.
I'll give you an example. Like, I didn't have to use it where I actually had to physically use it. It was more of a mental thing.
Oh,
When I came to LA, I was living on my own, and I had just moved into this apartment complex on 6th and Detroit, which is like in the heart of Los Angeles. And it's supposed to be like a really good neighborhood. It's kind of this hip neighborhood, a lot of like writers and a lot of like artists who would live there, and actors. And and one day, being from Northern California, it was more of a safer kind of neighborhood. So I was sort of like used to talking to neighbors and being like open and, hey, being neighborly and all that. And what happened was, one day there's like this post. I just moved in. They said neighborhood gathering in room 201. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if I should bring anything. It sounds like a really fun party, or get to know your neighbors. So I walk into room 201, and everyone is like sitting on the floor. It's like an empty apartment, and they're sitting in a circle, and they look all gloom and doom. And I'm like, what is going on here? I'm like,
wow.
something must have happened. So I sit down quietly, join the group, and it turns out that this lady had been carjacked in our parking garage. And I was paying extra for security, for parking security. um, you know, Instead of parking on the street, I was paying extra to park in the garage. But apparently
Yeah.
she got carjacked in the garage at gunpoint by two gunmen.
Oh my
And
god. Wow.
I was like, do I move out, or what should I do? So what I ended up doing is I got more vigilant. Like, for example, whenever I would come home, I would keep the garage door open or right between my legs. So
Yeah.
until in case I had to open it or whatever. And one day I'm listening to this radio station. It was talking about relationships, and I was like totally immersed. And it was after a show. And I parked into my little slot. The gate went down, and I saw something in my rearview mirror. And normally, um, I don't think if I had not taken martial arts, I would have necessarily noticed this. But it's just, I thought it was just a neighbor walking. But immediately the martial arts instincts kicked in. It was like something's going on that's off. So I went back,
Wow.
and I looked in the rearview mirror again, and it was a guy, and he had like a gun. I thought it was a cell phone at first, but turns out it was a gun.
Wow.
And right at the moment that it registers that he has a gun, I see another guy in another corner, kind of like, hovering, and he has something in his hand. It's probably a gun because he's kind of going like this. He was like this. And I was like, the first thought was, there's no way in heck, because I remembered in martial arts, you can't let them get too close. I was like, there's no way in heck I'm going to let them get close enough with those guns. So immediately I turned on my engine, boom, clicked the garage door opener, screeched out of there, and just took off. And
Wow.
that's one incident where I got away. And then the other time was I was being followed after a grocery shopping run. I was just walking back from the grocery store. This guy with a trench coat is like following me. And I was so tired. That week I'd been followed 3 times already, and I was just so tired of it. So what I did was right when I got to my building, he was several yards away, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to let him know that he can't mess with me. So I like turned around, and it was almost like a Western standoff, like a
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I looked at him, and I didn't say anything to him, but I just like looked straight at him. We were still a distance apart. And I had this imaginary circle that if he crossed, I said, if anybody's going down, it's going to be him. And I was like projecting that. And this guy got so scared, he started like walking backwards, and then he started running away. And I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
it totally worked.
And you totally don't look intimidating, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was intimidating that day. So it came in handy, I tell you.
That's so awesome. So you go through high school. Did you go to college?
Yeah, I actually was really good at math and science. And in math, I was taking calculus BCAP, but that was the last math class you could take in high school. So when I was about 15 and a half, the dean of students talked to my parents and said, you're going to need to maybe drive her to the local community college because she's really advanced, and you're going to want her to continue on. We don't want to hold her back. So during the day, I was still in high school, but at night, I was in college taking math classes. So I was taking
God.
calculus. I started again at calculus A, and then I went to B, C, D, and then I did differential equations. And guess what? That's how I discovered acting. Because on
I
my
was
way to
getting
the
ready to
math
ask,
class,
how did that happen?
that's exactly how it happened. On my
Wow.
way to math class, there was this guy. He was by the drama department, and you could not miss this guy. He had big red hair, like,
Glenn Morshower.
yes, that's him. No, like big bright red hair, just naturally red, and it was like
Yeah.
it was like big afro, and he had like freckles. He was just a really interesting looking guy, and he talked like a surfer. He's like, or like he's like, dude, man, have you ever taken an acting class?
Oh my God.
And I was like really serious at the time because I grew up in a serious household, so I was like,
Yeah.
it's not part of my major. I'm supposed to be an engineer. And I'm
Oh,
like
geez.
walking to math class. And then the next time I run by him, he goes, dude, man, have you taken that acting class yet? And I don't know who this guy is at all. It was like, I told you already, it's not part of my major.
Right.
And then he says, dude, man, you could get college credits and graduate early. And I was like, college credits? Because I didn't really know much about all that stuff. I
Yeah.
was like, yeah. College credit, I guess I could take it. I don't know. Something about that made me think maybe I should give it a shot or whatever. And then I ended up enrolling and taking my first acting class
Wow.
and had a marvelous teacher,
And
amazing.
how old were you at that point?
At this point, I believe I'm 16 and a half, 17, right around there.
Wow.
Yeah, because at this point I could drive.
And what I'm not I don't want to skip anything, but we're running out of time. So what s- so you got into acting. Did you end up getting any roles in movies,
Yes.
commercials? What happened? Where did things go at that point?
Well, thankfully, I'm so glad this guy encouraged me to take acting. I never saw him again, by the way. It was like,
No.
it's weird. Like he just popped up, guided me
Dude,
to
man.
acting, and then once I started the acting class, never saw him again. Like
He
I
was
didn't
an
even know his
effective
name.
recruiter.
I don't know.
Wow.
I have no idea why he was there.
Wow.
It was really weird. Sometimes I think he might have been an angel, you know,
Wow.
with
That
a
is
big
so
red
cool.
fro.
Well, Glenn used to have a big red fro. Maybe it was
Oh,
him.
maybe it was him, yeah. But yeah, the teacher, I took one class, she thought I had a natural talent for it because I observed people a lot. And so I could create, you know, imaginary circumstances and, you know, living truthfully in those circumstances. So she encouraged me to audition for some plays. I ended up auditioning for I don't know, musicals. I was really drawn to them. And
Mhm.
I had no idea I was going to do this. Oh my God. I bombed the first two auditions. There was another guy that told me about this workshop. Oh, there's this musical theater workshop you got to attend. But it's the last day of the 6 week workshop and they sum everything up. So I went to this like last day of the 6 week workshop,
Wow.
took all these notes and then tried to apply it to these auditions. So of course, the first couple auditions I did not do well in. I think I over rehearsed. I was also like, I had just started singing too, and I had over rehearsed, and my voice like was all, oh my god, I lost my voice during one of the musical auditions. It was
Oh,
embarrassing. Oh
jeez.
my god, because I over rehearsed, and I didn't know you weren't supposed to do that the night before.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
Finally, this one audition was Singing in the Rain, and it was the day of the audition, and I kind of felt, I mean, after I was already let down after 2 auditions and thinking, "Should I really go to this one?" And I almost didn't go, but something told me, "You know what? What's the worst that could happen?" I literally thought that. I thought, "Well, I just don't get it." "Oh, okay. Well then, but what if I go and it's fun and I have an experience?" So I did. I went, and they have you write down what roles you're auditioning for. I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." And I wrote down like the 2 small like supporting roles. Like, and I was like, well, maybe I should write it one of the bigger roles too. Um, yeah, I'll just write one of those too. And then I ended
Wow.
up booking the lead in Singing in the Rain as Lena Lamont, and I had this blonde
What?
wig, and I talked like this, you know, and it was like so fun.
Oh my gosh.
It was like the best acting experience ever.
Oh my gosh. And where was this?
The Los Altos Youth Theater.
So is that you
Yeah,
were still in Northern Cal at that
it's still in
point?
Northern Cal, yes.
Wow. So you and I wanna make sure we have time. I wanna show the clip from your
Yes.
movie. You decided at some point along the way, and I mean, you've had other acting roles, and I know that you do modeling and all of this, like, you do a bunch of things that are amazing.
Yes, I got into modeling because my family still wanted me to be an engineer, and in order to move out on my own and have enough money, I had to do something. And I actually went to a school counselor, and they're like, "You need to like make your own money. Why don't you get into modeling?" Because you know I was tall, thin. They thought that might be a good route, and that's how I got into modeling. It's just so I could pursue the arts and be able to pay my way and get out of the house as quickly as possible.
My
Yeah.
wife my wife is on here, and she just said, "I wanna hear about her second encounter with Jesus."
Oh. Yeah, that one. I may have to save that for the next show because that one's
Well,
quite the encounter.
then we'll just go over. Let's go. I wanna hear about it too.
Okay, I might be able to tell you in a short story. Okay, so I think you and I had personally talked once that I had gone
Look
through.
who's on here watching.
Oh my gosh,
Natasha!
Natasha! Yay, Natasha's
Woo,
my
woo,
agent.
woo.
She's amazing. She's like the
I
best agent
love
ever.
Natasha. Her and Craig are amazing,
Yes,
especially her.
they're both amazing. They're
I
like the
know, I
best
know, I
couple
know.
ever.
I love them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanna hear about this.
Yeah, the second encounter, I went through a really devastating time. Um, it was one of the hardest times in my entire life. To make a long story short, I had just broken up with someone, and it was a long term relationship, but it was like a really difficult breakup. And and when I moved out to my place, and there were like really crazy things that were happening at the time. Like uh, this person, I believe it was inadvertently. I don't think he was doing it on purpose. Had been dabbling in black magic. Okay,
Jeez.
It's kind
What?
of important for me to bring this up, and that's what my supernatural thriller is about. Is I bring in a little bit of real life into my real life story into it. But basically, uh, he was dabbling in black magic, and it was starting to affect his behavior a lot. And I don't think he really realized what was happening at all. He wasn't like practicing it. He was listening to music that had it was in a foreign language, but it was rituals,
Oh,
to basically open a portal to hell. Let's put it that way. Now,
wow.
at this point, remember I said I didn't grow up religious. I was agnostic, believe it or not. Even though I had the first encounter with Jesus, I didn't understand what that was. So I was agnostic, and I was surrounded with. And I grew up. My stepfather was atheist, and I looked up to him like a hero.
Wow.
So I would always ask him if he believed if there was a higher power or if there was something beyond. And he was always explaining things in a scientific way, and he'd always try to be very logical. So at this point, I witnessed something really horrific, like a transformation in this person. I think it was a possession, believe it or not. I had to leave in a very quick hurry, and so like it's like the bad mojo followed me. So now one bad thing after the next, after the next, after the next is happening. And so what happened was I remember uh, first my stepfather ends up in the hospital, and it was suddenly, and he it was very very painful. 10 days, and he passed away. Uh,
Wow.
my ex's mother also died, and then the accountant we had, the CPA we had together, died. People were just dying, like left and right. And I was like just mortified. I lost a full time modeling gig that I had. It was kind of part time, but it sort of had full time pay. And so I lost my job, and I had broken my toe. A car broke down. I mean, one horrible thing after the next is happening, right? So we're talking the baddest, worst mojo of all time. I mean,
Yeah. How in the world did you break your toe? Out of all of that, that's the one thing that's got me curious.
I know.
That's
I don't know. I was running through the condo, and I think I just hit something. I was
oh,
trying to get to somewhere, or I was trying to do something in a hurry, and I just,
yeah.
and
Wow.
so just like one bad thing, I had the worst luck ever. And it wasn't just luck, it was actually bad dark forces that were like followed
Wow.
me, even though I was not a participant, but I was present. And so
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. I had to learn spiritual warfare later. But anyway, here I was, running away from all this stuff. And and so I got into a lot of trouble financially. I was emotionally devastated. I went into depression, like a deep dark depression. Had major anxiety disorder. I mean, if you want to talk about breaking through walls,
Yeah.
thank goodness I was able to break through all that. But this was like, when you hear about people hitting bottom,
Yep.
I had hit bottom. I got into Buddhism at the time. I thought that that would help. I was meditating and chanting 3, 4 hours a day, 3 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night. Like we're talking 3 to 6 hours a day for an entire
Wow.
year. My circumstances were not changing. Um, and finally, I said, I need a healer. And I
Wow.
had this inspiration that um, to take a sightseeing class at AFTRA, American Federation of Radio and Television. I
Yep.
met this woman named Victoria, and I said, Victoria, I feel like one day I was taking a walk with her, and I said, I feel like I can't, I'm not going to be able to make it past this week. I had this feeling that I just wouldn't be able to. It was like the end. I felt like it was the end of my life, basically. And so,
Wow.
and she said, the only healer I know is the pastor at my church. You can go talk to her, or she could pray for you. Maybe she could do something. And so I said, yeah, I'll do it. And so I went to her church. It was Wednesday night Bible studies, and I had never cracked open a Bible. I didn't know anything about it. And when I walked in, I had this horrible feeling, like right here in my heart. It was just like pain in my chest.
Mm.
And so I told the pastor, I said, I didn't tell her what happened. And I didn't tell her I thought it was my last couple days on earth. But
Right.
but I said, I have this horrible heartache. It feels like my heart has been crushed into a million pieces and there's no way I can heal it. I don't know what to do. And so she said, I'll pray for you. And she said, do you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? And I didn't understand what that meant. Uh, but I thought, heck, I'll do anything. Like I got to get better. Otherwise I'm not going to live past this week. And
Wow.
so I said yes, even though I didn't fully understand, but I just thought,
Why
I'll
not?
give anything a try, right?
You're like,
And
why?
I'd
Why
already
not?
tried another new age healer, and that didn't work either. So I'm like, let's just like try everybody.
Yeah.
Let's see what works.
Right.
So and she started praying, and she had this anointing oil on me, and she's praying on, and and she's just speaking really fast, and all of a sudden, I literally saw. I mean, my eyes were closed, but I sensed this light, like bright yellow golden light, just shooting through the ceiling. And it literally went right here into my heart. And I could feel it start to mend my heart.
Ah,
And right at that moment, when I felt the sensation, and my eyes were closed, but I could see the light even though my eyes were closed, which was really trippy. And then I sensed a divine, like literally divinity, like the most magnificent presence on this side of my pastor. Like I was like, who is this? And so I kind of like started opening my eyes a little bit. I thought I should probably keep my eyes closed, but like, I'm gonna see what's going on. And I kind of looked, and at the bottom, I saw a robe, like like an ancient robe. Literally, it was so ancient. It's like nothing in modern day times I'd seen before.
right.
And so my eyes start to scroll up, and I'm like, Jesus, is that you? Like I literally said it because I was like, because I
Yeah.
recognized him because obviously at this point I've seen what Jesus looks like, and I was just amazed. And he said, he didn't even move his mouth. He like telepathically communicated with me. He said, all is well now. And
Wow.
and he was literally in corporeal form, like in actual physical form. And I remember looking over at my pastor, like, Pastor Pam, did she see? She was like right there. I was like, but then I was like, why? But I didn't want to miss the moment either. So I
Right.
couldn't really tell her. And I was just like, because I was just so in awe. And he said, all is well now. And then he turned into a mist and he entered every cell in my body I felt was revived. And
Wow.
I felt like I was healing on a cellular level. That's what it felt like.
Wow.
And for, I don't know, I can't even tell you how many weeks I felt a high. Like I'd heard about people talking about Kundalini awakening or achieving enlightenment or these
Yeah.
sensations before you experience enlightenment. I was like feeling this high like I had never felt in my entire life. I could only
Wow.
imagine like a euphoria, but my senses were sharp. All colors were bright. And I mean, I would walk around or I drive and I'd be like the green was greener and the flowers were even more rich. And this happened for weeks on end. I don't know how long it happened. Even weird coincidences were happening too. I mean, simple things like I'd be in a cafe barista. I was trying to cut back on chocolate at the time, so I order a cappuccino, but I'm thinking to myself, I want that mocha with whipped cream. Gosh darn it! And all of a sudden,
Wow.
the barista would charge me for the cappuccino, but would give me a mocha with whipped cream, almost like we were communicating telepathically in a weird way. I have no idea why this was happening, but it didn't happen just at one cafe because I've been trying to
Wow.
quit chocolate for a while there. I was taking time off. I was taking a break from chocolate. But then I'd be like at another cafe and the same thing would happen. I'd be like, what just happened? And then started suddenly bigger. That was started small and then bigger miracles started happening. And it literally turned my life around. But I have to say it didn't cure the depression. It helped it by about 50%. Depression was
Wow.
gone actually. But what happened was when life kicked in where, oh my gosh, if I don't do X, Y, and Z, my home is going to be foreclosed on kind of situation.
Yeah.
So I had to work like 3 jobs and try to build my finances back up and all this stuff. And a lot of great miracles happened after that. I mean, it was just like one miracle after the next. And I stayed with the church, and we did a lot of hands-on healing. A lot of this stuff, all the miracles in the Bible. I mean, there was a man in our church who was a church member, but his eyesight was going, and whenever I would hug him, he could never see me. And we prayed for him after church for hours. I don't know how long it was, but his eyesight was restored. And I remember the next time I went back, he actually looked at me for the first time when we hugged, and his wife didn't have to lead him anymore. This time he was leading his wife. And there was a woman who couldn't walk, like she had a walker and she couldn't walk without the walker. And then she was able to walk again. And all these miracles that were in the Bible were actually coming to fruition in our church. And we had a small church, only like 30 members, really very small church, but it was like one miracle after the next. And it was just so incredible to me how like true the stuff was in the Bible, because I was told a long time ago by another Christian friend that her pastor had told her that they were all just parables and stories, but they're not true. That's what she told me. She went to a church somewhere in Santa Monica. That's, what she told me. But I was like, so I, and at the time I was agnostic, so I didn't really understand. But I had firsthand experience witnessing that miracles really are real, and that a lot of the things that, I thought I no longer thought, because the reality of the stuff just blew my mind,
So that is unbelievable. Like, absolutely incredible. One of the most incredible stories I've ever heard about encountering Jesus, God, the whole thing. That's amazing. Amazing. So you continued on your journey as, and I would imagine as an actress in Hollywood, like that's not really the overall energy in the acting world, is it?
What energy?
I think about like Mel Gibson, and I mean, there's the I don't know. It's just that what you're talking about is absolutely opposite of what I think most people think of Hollywood as.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely. I mean, Hollywood's eclectic. I mean, there's all kinds of people in Hollywood,
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Glenn's one of the most, if not the most spiritual person I've ever known in my entire life. Right.
Yes, he really is.
He is. So, but you're talking about, there's not a lot of, I don't know. I don't live in Hollywood. I'm not in Hollywood, but from what I see and hear, it doesn't seem like it's the spiritual epicenter of the world. I'll just say that.
No, it's not. It's not particularly spiritual. You'll meet people amongst them, but
Yeah. But you ended up producing this movie.
Yes, White Dove: The Origin.
White Dove: The Origin. And with your permission, you have to say it out loud for YouTube and Facebook to hear. With your permission, I can show the trailer to your movie.
Yes, absolutely.
And is there any kind of prequel you want to give people before I turn that on?
Actually, you can go ahead and turn it on, and then I'll tell you about it after.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the trailer to Delilah's movie. It's called White Dove: The Origin, right?
Yes, White Dove: The Origin.
So here we go. Here it is.
So let me get this straight. A woman with a sword took out 2 of my best men. Man, I've heard some tall tales, but this one takes the cake. Sheriff Adams, all you had to do was look the other way. Go search the house. Take no prisoner.
Run, baby! Run! No! That night, I died in the cold, alone, away from God's light.
But you were not dead. The Great Spirit breathed life into you. We named you White Dove, bringer of peace.
I will not disobey, Father. I want to learn from him.
I sense in you a spirit of anger. I will teach you, only if you release it.
I'll do the right thing.
You must move smoothly like water. Practice until you do not know where your arm ends or where the sword begins. You must strike fiercely like a serpent.
At least tell me where you're taking me.
I'm gonna let the law give you what you deserve. And I hope it's a rope around your neck.
Remember, you must not seek revenge, only justice. You ain't heard of job, boy?
Rutherford sent you?
Boyd sent us.
Even better.
In the world out there, you will die cold and alone. But the might my father found you.
When I close my eyes, I can still feel death's grip around me. You and I both know the along these parts died 15 years ago. And I intend to find them who killed it.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so proud of it. It's definitely a project that comes from the heart. I want to give a shout out to my husband, James Wells. Also, he is the best husband anyone can ever have. He has been so supportive of my career from day one, you know, acting, filmmaking, everything. And the inspiration really came with us just, you know, talking about, well, first of all, you know, talking about the Wild West and finding a book that talked about the origin of the Native Americans, the California American Indians actually in California, and the things that the troubles that they went through. And it was a sort of an inspiration for the backdrop of the story. And the story of White Dove, the character, has a parallel to my own story, where she had a difficult childhood. And fortunately, I still have my parents, but unfortunately, White Dove does not. Yeah. And so she goes in and she learns. She gets picked up by the Paiute tribe. They raise her as their own, and she still has this deep desire to go after these people for justice that had harmed her parents, that had killed her parents. And it's like an epic story. This is the origin story of White Dove herself, but the film itself is intended to be turned into a feature or a TV series, or possibly both, because it's a bigger story. You know, it's an unconventional Western. There were a lot of Black cowboys, Mexican, Chinese immigrants, a lot of different, diverse, interesting people during that time. And I wanted to be inclusive, to really include everyone during that time period, and to be able to show each person's story as to how they ended up where they did. And White Dove ends up meeting her Shifu, Master Zhao, who teaches her Kung Fu. And there's no Kung Fu. Well, there's a little bit of Kung Fu, but not much in the actual film, but there is in the series.
That is so incredible. And your agent wants to know if you quit chocolate.
Oh no, chocolate turned out to be good for me. Actually, I discovered it was very good for me, so I stuck with it.
That's awesome.
It was a sign. I kept getting a sign that I shouldn't, you know.
Delilah, you are, gosh, you are just so multifaceted, and I'm just blown away by you. I think you're absolutely amazing, and I'm so honored that you came on here. And I mean, you shared so so much wisdom. I mean, you're a very young lady, and you're like filled with 100 years of wisdom, and it's absolutely amazing. It's amazing. So let me ask this, and unfortunately, we do have to wrap this up today. Um, w- when you see other people in the world, I've been through a lot of personal struggles myself. A lot of people have, and my wife, the hour went by so fast. It really did. And we're over an hour. Um, but you see other people in the world that are struggling, that have these dreams, these goals, these hopes, these wishes, that they're not getting, they're not achieving, they're not even close. What in your opinion, and this is your opinion, what do you think stops people from achieving, number one, true financial success, and number two, and I do think they're related, the experiencing freedom and happiness in life? And I do think that money has a part in it, because I've been broke and I've been wealthy, and wealthy's better. So what do you think is stopping people?
I really believe it all starts first and foremost with mindset. Um, to discover what if a person wants to overcome these things, they need to start to listen to their internal dialogue. This is something that I did a lot, and discover what their limiting beliefs are. Limiting beliefs are definitely going to affect a person significantly. Like if they believe something to be true, their unconscious mind is going to respond accordingly, and the majority of a person's behavior is unconscious. So
Yep.
that's going to be the driving force. And if they can reprogram their mind to believe the opposite of the negative thing that they believed, I truly believe that that's one of the ways to do it. And I actually do a lot of self hypnosis.
Mm.
I write out, they're kind of like affirmations, but the things that I want to have come true. And I do those kind of meditations where I'm listening to the words and really taking them in
Yeah.
on a deep level. But I think, it starts with self-talk, changing the inner dialogue. And when you start to become aware of what you're saying to yourself on a regular basis, it could have been something negative someone else said a long time ago. Or maybe when you were a kid, you were growing up, a family member might have said it and you took it to heart and thought it was true. Maybe they felt it about themselves and then you took it on. But these things can definitely be reprogrammed. And and the first step is really to become aware of what it is that you truly believe. And you can even journal. I think journaling is really helpful.
Yeah.
And just, journaling how you're feeling about the situation, whether it's financial or personal or career wise. And you'll start to see the language, the linguistics behind it. And that's the area that you want to start to work on.
I love that answer. I totally agree. I have a journal that I created and sell it on Amazon for the exact thing you're talking about.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
That's
I love that answer. I love what you just said, because it's 1000% true. It is true.
It is. And I think support, and also surrounding yourself with loving and supportive people.
Yeah.
There's just no space to not have that. Um, I have a wonderful, supportive, loving husband, James. I
Yeah.
have incredible friends, amazing family members and extended family members. I have amazing teachers. I have Glenn Morshower is my teacher.
Yeah.
Wendy Davis is another one of my teachers. I have just some of the best teachers that help guide me, and I'm just so grateful for that. But I think that having good mentors and teachers in your life, surrounding yourself with positive people that have similar goals and values and belief systems.
Delilah, you are delightful. You are amazing, and I am so grateful for you. I'm grateful to be able to call you a friend, and now we're Facebook friends, so it's like official.
Yeah, it's totally official. Yes.
I couldn't believe that last night. I'm like, wait a minute, we're not friends on Facebook? What? I thought we were. So,
Oh, and you know what? Just so you guys know, since you guys got a chance to see the trailer,
yeah.
we're going to be having a premiere, a red carpet premiere this year in Los Angeles. We don't know exactly where it's going to be or the date yet, but it's happening. So I just wanted to
so awesome.
keep you posted.
Where's the best place for everybody to follow you to just keep up with you?
I would say Facebook is White Dove Facebook page is one. The other is at Delilah Andre on Instagram. And the third place I would say, because we're going to have a opt-in page pretty soon so people can get updated when we actually have our premiere, and that's whitedovefilm.com. So
awesome. Debbie wants to know whatever happened to the black magic ex-boyfriend.
I don't know. He's out of the picture, so.
She doesn't know and doesn't care, and David definitely doesn't care.
David doesn't care either.
Right, your husband, right?
No, James.
James, I'm sorry, James.
Yeah,
My
James.
God, sorry. Oh, yeah, Debbie said, oh, good. Oh, good, stay away.
Yes.
Oh, great things are ahead for you. My wife says that. I totally agree. I'm so grateful for you. You're awesome. So everybody that's watched, if you haven't shared this out, please do so. There's redemption for you if you share this out. So Delilah, thank you so much. Everybody go follow Delilah on Instagram as well, at Delilah Andre. And thank you so much. You're amazing.
Thank you, Ken. I really appreciate being here today. I'm happy to have been able to share my story, and I hope that it was an inspiration to people and that they can find that happiness and awesomeness in life as well.
It definitely was. Thank you so much. And we will see you all later. Have an amazing day. Delilah, have an amazing day.
You too. Have a fantastic week, even.
Thank you. Yes, you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.